So quick video on the new government's rental reform bill. Now what is this? What does it mean? What does it mean for property investors? What does it mean for landlords? And what does it mean for tenants? Well, I'm going to quickly cover it and I'm going to give you my opinion on it and how I feel about this new reform bill. Now as usual, there's a lot of huff and puff in the media. Yet again, the same old stories going round. Buy to let is dead. Property investing is not worth it. Landlords are flooding out of the market. That seems to be another one they use all the time. And yet again, there's a lot of landlord bashing going on. So I'm going to give you my opinions, my thoughts, and what this means for us. Now, this new legislation, this new rental reform bill is there to bring the private rental sector up to scratch. Also to make an even playing field between tenants and landlords. And to basically just make sure that everybody does everything correctly. Now, for me, this new rental reform bill is a good thing. I actually quite welcome it. I'm happy for these new legislations to come into play because as a landlord, I like to think of myself as a good landlord. I like to provide good quality homes. I always fix issues when they arise. I'm always very fair with the rent. So if you already possess these traits, these qualities, then you really do have nothing to worry about. The fact that the media is saying that it's going to kill off buy to let and loads of landlords are selling up, I think it's an absolute load of rubbish. Now the biggest point that we're seeing a lot, especially in the news, is the fact that this new rental reform bill is now abolishing Section 21. Now, Section 21 basically meant that you could evict your tenant for any reason whatsoever. So if you wanted the house back for whatever reason, the tenant had done something and you didn't want to go down the legal route, you could simply issue them with a Section 21 and they would have a certain period of time to leave the property. Now that has been abolished and everybody's kicking up a fuss saying because of this reason, everyone's going to leave the property market when, in my opinion, don't think it'll make any difference whatsoever. And for those people that are leaving the rental sector purely because of this reason, are basically demonstrating that they're not good landlords. So for me, it's a good thing. And although Section 21 is being abolished, so we can no longer evict tenants for no reason, they are strengthening the Section 8, which means that you can evict tenants should they breach their tenancy agreement, should they go into arrears and not pay, antisocial behaviour and all things like this. So although they're getting rid of Section 21, they are strengthening Section 8, which is good news for property owners and landlords. Now for me, I think somebody pointed this out in the comments in a previous video. Renting out property is like a business. The tenant is like a customer. So why would you want to get rid of your tenant? Why would you want to get rid of your customer? Now for me as a landlord, I want to keep my tenants in there as long as I possibly can. So I have absolutely no reason to serve any Section 21s. I have no reason to tell my tenants to leave or to have the house back because basically I'm running a business, I'm providing a service, I'm providing a property for the tenant who is my customer and I want to keep hold of my customers as long as possible and keep them happy. So for me this is welcome news because if I do get a bad tenant then it means that Section 8 is now working more in my favour. I can evict a tenant through the legal route more easily than I probably could before. So all in all, based on these two main factors, this rental reform bill is not a problem whatsoever from where I'm coming from, and I'm sure it's not an issue, not a problem for the many landlords who do a good job around the country, who provide well looked after nice homes for tenants and are fair on the prices that they charge. Now for me, I'm not one of those who puts the rent up every 5 minutes. I think I've only ever done it once, and that was when the interest rate started to spike. I had to put them up minimally. However, I certainly haven't hiked my tenants' rent. I certainly don't give them rental increases every few months. It's only something I would do now and then. So again, the fact that landlords can no longer increase the rent more than once in a 12-month period simply doesn't affect me because like I said at the start, I see myself as a good landlord, so these changes can only be beneficial, they can only be a good thing for the tenants as well as the good landlords. Now here's something that a lot of people don't know about, and you may be thinking, well what if you have a genuine reason to evict a tenant? Maybe because you want another family member to move into that house or you wanted to sell the property. Well, under the new Section 8 rules, you can serve a Section 8 if you legally require that property back, as long as the tenant has been in there for more than 6 months and you are doing it for a genuine reason. So again, this is just another reason that strengthens the case for changing and for having this rental reform bill. Now another point that I'll make is, one thing at the minute is the landlord has total control over what pets a tenant can have in the property. However, this is going to change also. So according to the bill, renters can now request permission to have a pet in their home, and the landlord cannot unreasonably withhold consent. So basically, you have to allow your tenant to have a pet. Now obviously this will come with a few disadvantages. I found that people who have larger pets, like larger dogs in the house, or a lot of cats, or whatever animal it may be, obviously things like your furnishings and your carpets and curtains will start to smell of dog or smell of cat. So this is not a good thing if the tenant leaves the property, comes to the end of the agreement, or they move out and you're left with a smelly house. However, it does reinforce the fact that when the tenant went into the property, as long as you did a proper inventory check and you outlined everything as it stands and the condition of everything in the house, which you should do if you're a landlord, then you shouldn't have any issues because the tenant is legally responsible to replace everything and keep everything within that condition, within that order. So if they completely destroy the carpet or the dog chews the flipping skirting boards or something, then the tenant is liable to replace those items and return the property into the state that it was when they first rented it out. Now there's also another important point which I can see why it is putting some landlords off, but again, if you're a good landlord then it shouldn't be an issue, and that is the introduction of a property ombudsman. Now it seems that this is going to be mandatory for all landlords in the country. You'll have to join, you'll have to conform to their rules and their requirements. However, it will be a good place for landlords to keep updated, especially on new legislation such as recently we've had the fact that you have to have an electrical certificate. Now I know a lot of older landlords, so to speak, that just didn't even know about this because they don't pay any attention or they don't follow property news or YouTube or anything like that. Now with the rental sector, things are changing all the time, so it's very important that we keep up to date with these things, not only landlords but also tenants. So being a part of this property ombudsman means that we will have a place to be able to check on things, make sure you're up to date with everything, and also make sure that you are complying with the law. Now what they're going to do is they're going to introduce a new property portal which you will be able to have access to. This is there for landlords to understand and demonstrate compliance for all the legal requirements regarding renting property out. So again, this is a really good thing for me. I think it'd be much better if I could just have a portal where I go and I've got information of everything that I need to do, all the requirements that I need to check. So even though it might be a bit of paperwork, a bit of aggro to sign up to this, in the long run, it's always going to be a good thing. Now, the only other major thing that I think I need to talk about is the fact that this reform bill is going to bring in something called a minimum housing standards. So this means that the property that you rent out has to meet certain requirements. It has to be up to a certain standard. Now, we've seen some horror stories on the news lately of especially these social housing and these large companies who have hundreds and hundreds of houses. They completely neglect their tenant and there's literally damp and mould and water pouring through the ceilings and they're living in a really bad state. Now obviously this is not a good example. It doesn't bode well for landlords, but you can't tar everyone with the same brush. So I do again think this is a good thing. I do think that properties should be up to a certain standard for anybody to live in. What gives us or landlords or property investors the right to just buy any old property and get somebody in there paying rent and then leave them to it and not look after them and not provide habitable shelter that they can live in long term. So for me, this rental reform bill is good news. If it's going to put people off property, then so be it, let them leave. I do feel that there is a bit of a divide at the minute between more experienced landlords that have been in the game a long time and coming to the end of their era, so to say. And this is opening up an era for new and younger landlords to come in, which I think will have a positive boost to the property and rental sector. I totally understand that landlords who have been doing this for 30 or 40 years probably had enough by now, probably getting a bit fed up. They don't want to keep renovating their properties. They don't want to keep up to date with new legislations and all sorts of things from the government. However, younger landlords can come in. They possibly have more drive, possibly more up to date with technology and the internet, YouTube, social media, so they can easily keep up to date with what's happening. So just think we're going through a bit of a change at the minute. And all these reform bills and legislations are pushing the older landlords out and introducing the new younger landlords in. Now, I might be totally wrong. You might think I'm talking a load of rubbish. But please leave your thoughts in the comments below, as I'm always interested to hear them. Also, please hit the like button if you enjoyed this quick video, as it really helps a small channel like mine to grow. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram because I post loads of useful information on there about property investing. And if you want to build your own property portfolio, just like I have, then there is a link in my description where you can go and join our property academy. It gives you all of the education that you need, and it also gives you access to me anytime you like for help and guidance. So I'm Jason, hope you enjoyed this quick video, and I'll catch you soon.